Hello out there, Foxes fans, and welcome back to another edition of the U.S. Foxes podcast. We think, if it's working, I think we're live. That's good. Always am your host, Matt Folks, joining you live from San Diego, California, and I am joined by my amazing three co-hosts up there in Del Mar, California, the little San Diego suburb, Mr. Chris Warner. What's up, my dude?
How you doing, Matt? Can't complain. What a performance at the weekend. Emphatic. Diminish those Spurs demons for the at this moment in time. And as we said last week, now looking forward to two huge games coming up over the next couple of weeks.
It's crazy. We are on quite a ride right now, and for being such a big sports weekend here in the United States, we obviously with the Super Bowl and the for the golfers out there, the Waste Management Open going on, it was an amazing way to kick off the weekend sports wise. Joining us from New York City as always, Mr. Jason Becker. Jason, how you feeling on this Victory Monday?
Doing great. It kind of felt like Pappy Mendy's goal was like someone hitting a hole-in-one on the 16th of that Waste Management tournament you just mentioned.
Definitely very
but
similar
better.
Vibes. Definitely very similar vibes. Absolute rocket. We will dive into that down in Houston, wearing the glasses. I like those, man. I don't think I've seen those before. Mr. Jim Harris, what's up? Texas Foxes, how are you, man?
Doing well, yeah. It's been a long day at work, so need to wear my glasses for tonight. And all the better after a big win against Tottenham. Always nice to beat them, and they've been our bogey team for a little while, so even sweeter.
Absolutely. And like I said, it was a big sports weekend here in the US. So it just to have that as like the cherry to start the entire weekend, it was perfect. And I didn't even know, boys, where do we begin? I guess let's touch on, we sounded optimistic heading into the game. If you listen to the pod last week, I think the vibes were decent that we were going to put in at least a good effort coming off a Villa match where we got to see some of the new boys shine and really kind of set the tone for where we were headed. So I don't think anybody was necessarily thinking this was going to be maybe a typical Tottenham match, especially one like in the beginning of the year. I think we all kind of felt like maybe there's a little bit of a difference coming in this match compared to the first one. And I know my texts and messages with some other Leicester fans before the match were very confident. And I just woke up with a sense of confidence, like, why not us today at the KP? And man, it ended up being quite the day in Leicestershire, Chris. Let's take it off the bat, man.
Yeah, well, it didn't start off that confident, to be honest. First 10, 15 minutes leading to their goal, defensively, we looked a little bit like we did against Villa. It looked like we were, again, just trying to get that sense of unity and understanding each other. And I think, yes, the goal itself was pretty unfortunate. I don't think anyone could really, it just kind of hit Christensen, went across the box. But again, it was a corner. We just literally 30 seconds earlier, they'd had the same kind of routine again. And it was one of those feelings where we didn't think we'd learned a lesson almost. And we conceded. But then, after that, Matt, it served like a catalyst. And from that moment on, you could only see one winner. And that is so refreshing to say. Typically, we're always on the other foot in these situations. But after that, it was game on. And I'm sure the boys will talk about the goals. But 2, 3 quality finishes, for all of them, quality finishes, a fantastic team performance, and 3 well-deserved points.
Definitely. We came out 4-3-2-1, same as last week. And Conte comes strolling out looking like the penultimate Bond villain. Every year he gets a little more villainous, and he was 100% looking like he had a hidden rocket somewhere in London that needed to be discovered by James Bond. But to see you spoke about that goal, but Christensen, man, like you said, 30 seconds before that, he makes one of the best saves of the season, literally a gravity defying save where the ball's bouncing around and all of a sudden he gets a leg and sends it out. Your thoughts on that we'll just dive right into Jason. What your thoughts on that whole run of play?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we came out and we did didn't look like we were just going to sit back. So that was encouraging. But yeah, there were some shaky moments between the fast break on the left wing again, which was kind of a problem against Villa, right? Giving up a lot of space there. But it was great. Christensen, like it was a hell of a play to get that ball over the bar off that early corner. And you could see just how freaking pumped up he was, like celebrating inside the goal, which you love to see defenders who love defending. I mean, I don't think there's anything better than that. So, but yeah, it was unfortunate, kind of bounced on his right foot, his weaker foot on the goal we gave up. It's one of those things where maybe earlier in the season, or maybe even a few weeks ago, right before the transfer deadline, we may have like taken that setback and really like put our heads down. But I think, all the players looked around and said, like, look, we're not playing that poorly. We just got to tighten up. And it was a bad break, but we can go at these guys and we can get something out of this. And there's still enough time to do so.
Right. It wasn't like one of those where, 3 or 4 guys get beat by a man or there's a lapse in somebody doing their job. It was literally just a pinball fucking corner, bad luck kind of thing. So I think whereas earlier in the season where that would have been a moment where everybody hangs their head, fuck, here we go again. Gave up a corner, here trudge back to the half line, kick the ball off. It was the exact opposite. It was literally like, all right, that was some bullshit, guys. Let's go. And it's heartening to see that, Jim. I mean, compared with some of the effort that we've seen earlier this season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Jason and Chris talked about it earlier, but it was kind of like watching a bit of a replay of last Saturday's game, with going 1-0 down and then quickly, coming back and showing some real steel, and then taking advantage to actually go in ahead at halftime as well. And I think that's the big difference, as Jason said, in terms of the attitude is there. I think we all felt certainly hard done by as fans with that first goal, especially, we thought we had a let off with Christensen putting it over the bar. Surely you can't have the exact same corner routine and score, right? Oh wait, hang on, only Leicester can do that, and it doesn't look like Bentancur knew where the ball was.
No, he didn't even really celebrate.
Yeah, but I think Chris spot on. Like the first 5-10 minutes, like leading into the goal, we looked like we were learning where everyone was again. I think Papi Mendy in the second minute played a Millwall-esque pass, and I mean when he played against Millwall, not playing for Millwall, where he kind of like P-rolled it to Castagna and they nipped in, and I think ended up being a chance, and so did, and then there was that, Perisic kind of clean through, because I think it was Castagna had tried to go and tackle Son in their half, like 15 yards into their half. So, we got let off, but we showed the determination and composure to kind of get back in and get that goal from the rocket. And I don't know who was more surprised, me or Papi Mendy, but that he scored.
Yeah, let's dive right into that. 22nd minute, balls bouncing around, as we've seen 100 goals scored against us in this way, where somebody just laces one. And yeah, Pappy takes a note out of the missing the injured Yuri Tielemans book, and just delivers a rocket that no one knew was in his arsenal. He's never even really tried that before. It's not like Ndidi, where we've seen him, fucking do that 15, 20 times and send it completely out and to send it to Seagrave, basically out of the stadium. He doesn't really even attempt those. Chris, your thoughts as you're seeing that ball bounce around? Because it comes out and it's bouncing towards the edge, and I'm just like, my first thought was, come on, Yuri, be there. And then my brain remembered Yuri's out of the match. Who's this going to fucking be? And it was
cleared off the line. Let's not forget, like, it was heading in. Yeah. Like, it was cleared off the line. It was a great, to be honest, we under like the corner was a great routine. Header came in off the line, comes out to Mendy. And at that point, it's all about technique. Like, you see that ball coming, it's inviting, it keeps his body and head over the ball, strikes it as clean as he's ever going to strike it, Matt, as you say. And it's an absolute thunder rocket. By the time by the time the ball's gone in the back of the net, the keeper has just looked across and be like, "Oh, I'm done." And quality finish, yeah. 9 times out of 10, he's probably going to pull it into Rosie, corner flag, or whatever. But I'll take
going for a throw in.
Yeah, I'll throw it. I'll take that one time when he hits an absolute rocket. And yeah, great goal.
Jason, speak on it.
Yeah, man. I like it. It's been a while since I've just like let something out like I did for a goal, because it came from such an unlikely source. It's his first goal ever for the club. Like, when do you ever even see Papi Mendy around the box in the first place, right? So just to see him in that position, and it just seemed like one of those goals where like that the guys like him around the club. You can tell that his teammates like him. He's probably a good dude to have around, and everyone was just so happy for him. And it was a screamer of a goal, but it was just a really great way to just, announce to the whole stadium and everyone watching, like, we're not losing this game. We're here to play, and we've got some big moments in us. And it really just the stadium sounded like it erupted. We erupted at the bar, and just then didn't stop for the rest of the game. Like, it really set the tone for a good, aggressive, strong, powerful rest of the game from the boys. And it also kind of started this theme, I think, of some just pretty awful goaltending by Fraser Foster. Yeah, he just did not look comfortable in goal, and you can see he was probably the most surprised out of anyone. Papi Mendy's coming in, and I'm sure all the scouting reports, if he's even read them, would say, like, don't worry about this guy shooting. And you can see Foster's thinking that a cross is probably coming in, and he's got a bit of a screen, so he chooses to lean to the far post, and he had absolutely no chance to get to that. And I mean, even if he were leaning, to his left side, he probably still wouldn't have gotten anyway. But we really took advantage of him being in goal, which is great, because we don't shoot enough, right? We don't pepper the goal and create these chances. And on Saturday they did, right? They kept on it. When you see a weakness, Rogers just always talk about being relentless, like that 9-0 win against Southampton. When you see a weakness, you go for it. You just hammer it. And Foster was a real weak link there, and we did pepper him with shots.
Yeah, I have no misconceptions about, maybe it was such an incredible performance, but maybe we see one less on the scoreline if Lloris is in there, just because he's a player that always, much like Harry Kane, we'll get to that asshole, but much like Harry Kane, who plays just incredibly well against us, like Lloris, he's just always making fucking saves that make zero sense. And he's a phenomenal goalkeeper, don't get me wrong, but there's just something about playing us that Lloris always tends to get an extra fingertip or something happens like that. Jim, not to get away from the goal, though, because I just want to spend a little bit more time on it. I think my favorite thing about it is sometimes when we see players that aren't natural goal scorers and score goals like this, it's just a case of close your eyes, kick it as hard as you can, and kick it so hard that your boot hits your forehead. If you watch that goal from Mr. Mendy, it is a controlled shot. He keeps, he kind of doesn't whip that leg around. He kind of places it. It's just an incredible goal. Tell us some of your thoughts about it down in Houston.
I don't know what more I can say apart from Thunder Bastard. I think we used that phrase before to describe Yuri's goal, and Matt, you put it, you summed it up with it being that, just the composure, Jason saying scouting report. I was thinking he's not going to cross it. He's going to pass it backwards or sideways. He's probably looking out. There's no one right of me, so I can't put it out for someone to cross it. But yeah, no, it kind of was that perfect, the way it came and landed, and he kind of let it bounce. I think it was the second bounce, half volley. I'm trying to remember rightly, but it's just the purest strike, and it just went like a It went like a Matt Fulks drive, right down the middle. That beautiful arc and then drop that you like to see when you're hitting a driver, as opposed to mine that kind of just flies mid-flight and then skips along the ground and slides into the rough, the opposite side of the cart path when it's raining. So I think that's just fantastic. And yeah, like there's been a lot of talk about this is a guy who's gone from not even being in the squad last season and only coming in because of injuries to, they extended his contract, I think, and then again, a bit part player, has been around the team. I think he's a definition of a squad player. Listening to Radio Leicester and Matt Piper today, he was saying he's kind of a combo of all of our other sort of sixes and centre mid. So he has like bits of it. So it's like he's better at passing than Ndidi, but he can't tackle as much. He's better at defensively positioning himself than Samari, but he can't pass or transition the ball. So I think he's the definition of like that sort of shuttler, water carrier, just be in there, block it and link up the play. I'm not sure he's quite as good at passing as Pipes maybe said, as witnessed in the second minute when we would have been 1-0 down if it wasn't for that. And we've seen him underhit passes regularly, but look, he's the sort of player you need around the squad. Clearly they like him. Look at the celebration. Look at the rest of the team going up to him as well. He played in the World Cup and he didn't do himself any injustice there. He's performed really well. So I hope he gets like an extension and he stays around because I think we need him. And if he can keep popping up with the odd goal, well, what an addition to the locker.
Definitely, Jace. For those of you that aren't watching us live, Jason had a bit of a question mark look on his face there. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with Piper's description of Pappy Man. I think everyone was a little like, buzz from the win, and even Pipes himself was like, he said Mrs. Piper wanted a night in, and he was like, "No, honey, we're going out, on Saturday night."
Yeah.
So maybe there was still a little bit of that left in the system. I didn't listen to what he said, but Jim, I'll I would think that you gave an accurate representation of his words there. I think like what Pappy Mendy does is just try to make the safest plays possible, right? So that's kind of like what he's comfortable doing. He likes to get back as deep as possible in transition and kind of get in line with the back line, which I always kind of have some issues with. He does have a very high, like, sort of passing percentage, but if you look at where the passes go and where the stats say his passes go, they don't really go forward. They kind of go side to side, and he just makes that tries to make the comfortable play. And I think that, he is undersized, maybe not the quickest defender. So, Pappy's one of those guys, you love him or you just don't know why. He's getting, he's still around. So I think though, Saturday, there was still a little bit of that, right? Where he kept kind of going back very deep and Spurs were getting the ball. The midfield were getting the ball in the middle of the park in transition. They had space. But I think as the game kind of went on and the intensity picked up, he started to do the same. I think he realized that, like, look, I can't play this safe game anymore. We need to have, in this setup, you need 3 active midfielders. And something clicked in him, and he just started going out and seeking the ball and seeking tackles. And I was like, oh man, like this is the guy. Like, this is the guy I've wanted to see for all these years. I think he put in like a really good, complete performance, and he defended his ass off instead of just kind of sitting back and trying to see if the play comes to him and see if he can hide behind somewhere. He went out and like if the fullback went up and went on a foray up the pitch, he was there to slide out to slide out wide and make the tackle when we really needed one. He made a few huge tackles in the second half. We'll get to the second half and all that. I don't want to get too far ahead. But sorry, I should keep a little bit more of a poker face so I don't take us on these tangents.
I deliberately quoted my source. I just felt like it was an interesting one, and I'm looking at sort of like, looking at the heat map and the passing. Most of them are still true to form and consistent with Jason's eye test as well.
Yeah, he definitely had it was like a different player today. And just like Jason said, passing went forward this time. And speaking of players making forward passes, we got a couple center backs, guys. 24th minute, Wout Faes steps up and makes an interception play. It's like just steps up to the ball and puts it perfectly on a dime to Nacho, who then lays it off to Matters, and we go up 2-1. Speak a little bit, Chris, about that Wout Faes move. I mean, dude, that was
Garth Crooks
incredible.
calls it the best tackle he's seen all season. I think the ex-Tottenham guy. I think it was a real nice kind of image of how aggressive we played defensively. I think we'll talk maybe more when we talk about tactics, but I think it was deliberate that we were pushing onto Kane. Like, we realized that Kane plays his best when he's in that hole between the centre halves and whoever you've got trying to hold. And we were aggressive in trying to close that down all game. It was a great tackle. Fortunate that it lands at Kelechi's feet, but from that point on, it's class. And again, we saw it at the Villa game. One of the things that Kelechi does exceptionally well, and other players up there do well, is that they can now see when to play the extra pass or when to take it. And in this instance, Kelechi realized that the extra pass to Maddison was the perfect thing to do. Lays it off. Great finish again. Keeper's charging out at Maddison. He's got a pretty small window to stick it in. Sticks it tightly in the corner. I think one of the things that we should mention, I think, as well, is that the KP was rocking on Saturday. It was one of the first times that I really felt you could feel the atmosphere coming through the TV. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was something about the Mendy goal, the fact we were all aggressive, the Leicester fans were loud at that point, that didn't have something on the fact that it was just Tottenham had switched off a little bit and we took full advantage of it. But yeah, I mean, I'll watch that fast tackle every single day of the week. It was a cruncher.
I think it was the way fans brought the energy from last week at Villa. Like, I spoke last week about how fucking loud our guys were on the away end at Villa, and then just the energy was brought right back with Pappy's goal. Jason, you want to speak a little bit about Wow and that move that he made to get that goal started?
Yeah, man. I think San Diego and Southern Cali and Texas food, you guys probably know a little bit more about this, is more known for its heat, but Faes put a little hot sauce on everything that he did. I don't think Belgian cuisine is really known for that, but he really did. And I think that goal, right, and that tackle was like kind of indicative of like what was going to go on the rest of the game. Kane was already starting to feel frustrated. He wasn't getting much space. Early on, he had to drop back deep. Now, Kane does like to do that a lot, right? He likes to drop back and get the ball. But he really does that when he's suffocated, right? And he's not getting any space. And we played him tight. We played him close. And we played him really aggressively. So he had to go back. The tackle was made around midfield, right? And Faes just steamrolled him. And it was a hell of a play. And I mean, if you just kind of look at what Kane did, and had one shot attempt. He was spent. Jim's got the heat maps up. I don't know if you can see where Kane spent most of his time, but to me, in my eyes, he spent an awful lot of time around midfield, and it was perfect. I mean, we really contained him really well. Suter deserves a lot of credit too. He did a hell of a job on Kane, and kind of acted like it was just another day in the office. Like he said he didn't do anything special to play against Harry Kane. He wanted to play his own game. Iheanacho back to the goal, gets the ball, does it better than anyone on the side. Yeah. Finds Maddison. Maddison can probably finish better than anyone on the side. It was a great goal. And you say the King Power was rocking. I'm pretty sure they accidentally blasted like a second or two of a song right before Madison like scored that goal. There was like a little mistake in the PA. But
premature
Madison
PA
composed as ever, gets that goal.
It was great. And yeah, if you're a fan of aggressive defense leading to goals, man, we got to see it in the 48th minute. As you spoke his name a minute ago, Harry Sudar, the new beast from the east back there, just steps up and basically plays
the Thunder from Down Under.
The Thunder from Down Under plays essentially that's very similar to what we saw Wout do. He steps up, plays a ball straight through to Nacho again, which completely leads to Nacho doing some crazy shit. Jim, go ahead, man.
Well, I think he meant his, unlike maybe Wout Fass's.
Yeah.
Technically, according to the stats and looking at it, Wout Fass didn't make a tackle during the game, according to who scored. I think they classed that as an interception for the second goal. So, hey, I wrote tackle in my notes. I think we all think it's a tackle. So, hey, who scored? You're wrong there. I'm sorry. Yeah. But Matt, I think to your point on the goal, and I want to point out, it was the fourth minute of 4 minutes of added time that we scored the third goal. So again, never happens to us as Leicester that we get that kind of knockout punch. But I think this is why one of the reasons we signed Harry Suter, because we knew he could play the ball with his feet. He can hit those long diagonal balls. Looking at his highlights from Stoke and from Australia, he is playing those switch balls. I think it adds a lot to the game. I think he's actually, for all the kind of talk about how good Fass was with the ball, I think Suter's a lot more composed. And I saw Jason's poker face going again, so I was quickly able to finish my sentence on that one. But I love you, brother. But I think one of the things that we saw, and I think it was a consistent theme throughout the game, was they were playing a back three, and this was like we were really pressuring those back three, and it split it. And at this point, it was like, I think it was actually from a counter attack as well. And I think Davis had kind of been progressing forward, and Suter, we turned it over, and Suter saw the space where Davis was ahead, and basically Nacho kind of drifted over into that sort of right half space behind their left center back, and it was like perfectly weighted through. And then he had just Dyer one-on-one, and we know, Eric Dyer is about as fast as the ship that was stuck in the Suez Canal. So he's got the same turning circle as well. And I think Nacho had him on toast, I think is the phrase that, he did a couple, I'm going to talk to, because it's a US podcast, a couple of little jukes. He looked like Barry Sanders, peak Barry Sanders, giving him the little shift left, right. And then just kind of that, it was a Nacho finish, wasn't it? It was just that slide.
Yeah.
He just passes it into the bottom corner, past, Fraser Forster, who's got the reaction time of a slug, who clearly didn't
of an Eric Dyer
on Saturday as well. Yeah. So that was just, it was just so nice to watch Nacho on. We know he's on form, right? But that's the sort of stuff that he just does. And when he's off form, he falls over or treads on the ball or something. But when he's on peak and he's not thinking about it, much like when I'm not thinking about hitting a golf ball, I can hit a golf ball. But if I think about it, I fall over. And that's the same. That kind of beautiful, just kind of bent it round Dyer.
Yeah.
And just picked his spot. So I think all in all, that's that goal, two counter-attacking goals against a team that were touted as their counter-attacking nature before we played them. And I think we talked last week about being worried about actually the game having to go to them and getting picked off behind. And I know you guys want to get into a bit more about we held them in their half and they did nothing. Matt, you mentioned Harry Kane, silent. Son, pretty silent as well. I think the average heat map for the whole team for them was in their half pretty much. So anyway, that was the third goal. Nacho juking around, twinkle toes, slide rule. That's how I'm saying.
Was I the only one, guys, that saw the wide open James Madison right next to him and thought, "Fucking pass it over"? But then he proved us all wrong.
Yeah,
Chris, were you watching the same thing I was?
Nacho had one thing in mind when he got that ball, and I think it really talked to Jim's comment about his confidence. I think an out of confidence, a Nacho that didn't have the confidence may have looked to knock it by him and try and beat him for pace. But Nacho, playing as confident he is, he knows he can do a man one-on-one face up. And to Jim's point, I think one of my favorite goals to see is when an attacker has the ball close control in his feet and he can just knock it slightly out of his foot and then bend it round the centre half. And it was a quality finish. I think that is it's so difficult to do. He's got a tiny little space that he's aiming for. He's got to whip it around the centre half, whip it into that far post and beat the keeper. And it's an incredible finish. And I think just epitomises the confidence that lad's got at this moment in time.
Sorry, Matt. He already thought, "Hey, Matt, as I gave you the second goal, I'm not giving
you." Fair enough. Halftime comes, then we're up 3-1 against Tottenham. The drinks were flowing in San Diego. I'm assuming they were in New York as well, singing and very, very confident and happy at that point. And, in the past, maybe we come out and we give up a goal early or something. And so you're always just kind of, we're Leicester, so let's not get too happy here. It's only 2-goal lead. But we come out in the second half, and Nacho plays once again an insane ball to Harvey Barnes. Harvey finishes it. It is offside. Was it? Let's argue about that one, Jason. Let's get into that.
Yeah, man, that was cruel. It was such a pretty play by Nacho.
Oh.
Like that little kind of shimmy, that little shimmy hesitation that he did to free up the space and get the defenders kind of get their feet to cross, and to give him that passing lane to Barnes was just a really just slick, sexy little play. It was nice, and that, as Chris said, man, that's a striker who's feeling himself. That's a guy who's playing with confidence. It was a great play, great finish by Barnes. Barnes was, marauding up and down that left side. It's funny because we've been talking about this. We're talking about all these goals, whereas last week we were talking about Tete. Tete didn't really do much. It was the Barnes show. Barnes, Iheanacho, Madison were kind of, we're doing all the flashy stuff, but it shows when you have that threat on the other side, look at Barnes now with that space that he has. He can operate. He can run at the goal with pace. He can take on defenders. He can get behind, and he can also do that when you have a number 9 in there that can kind of also create more space and create kind of a vacuum in the middle of the pitch. It was a beautiful play. It deserved to go on the scoreboard. So did feel bad for Barnes, but you can see, man, we were cruising and playing well, just going out there, playing fun football, and just kind of knew that there was going to be another goal that was going to come.
Yeah, I said to Bill, one of the San Diego Foxes, when that got called back, I was like, this is just going to piss Harvey off. Just watch. And sure enough, man. You want to speak a little bit more on that one, Chris or Jim? Just the bullshit of that fucking VAR call.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it was this. I don't know if it was Birch who said, was it something about if he hadn't cut his he should have cut his toenails before the game. It sounds like a Birchism. But I think, again, it was from a counter-attack. We won the ball out, but I think it showed this, this is kind of like how we were when we came 5th a couple of seasons, when we're on the good run bit, not on the back end of it. But very quick turnover and getting the ball, vertically up the pitch. And then Jason, as you said, Nacho, beautiful. He basically sort of did what he did for his goal, but a bit further out, and then just slid Barnes through. And I think I was chatting to our friend Graham. I was like, just imagine this is offside. And I was like, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to add. And it was right after a chance when Barnes had put Iheanacho through and he headed it over the bar. So we were looking dangerous, as Chris said.
Sorry, Chris.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying, like that VAR decision also really just kind of drove home I think the lopsided officiating in the game. Like we did not get any favors from the referees. More than happy to give Spurs the benefit of the doubt throughout the game, to pull out the cards against our players. Spurs only had one card, and it was really poor refereeing, I thought, and officiating. I mean, the Premier League itself just had just an awful weekend of officiating, and so something clearly has to change there. But that's maybe a topic for a whole nother podcast. But the officiating was particularly rough. KDH made a couple of great tackles that he was called. He was whistled for, and then you have this kind of VAR decision that really just goes down to how thick they want to draw the lines, and it was a play that certainly deserved the goal.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo Jason's point. And I mean, if you listen back and watch the game, there's no mention in that Barnes scored goal from the commentary team or anybody that there's a potential offside there. And I think, again, Jason's right, we could talk about this for hours, but this weekend was shambolic refereeing. I mean, there's been change. It's all well and good coming out and saying, "Oh, we made mistakes," but that's not really going to help anybody at this moment in time. And it's Tottenham get the benefit of that for their first goal. We get shit on for the second. Oh, it's tough luck. But you mentioned at halftime, Matt. I just wanted to echo this. Like, I was still a little bit nervous going into that second half because it only took 3-2 all of a sudden. You could feel that maybe there was a momentum shift and maybe something would happen. So yes, we did, that goal didn't count. But to me, what that goal kind of epitomized was that aggressive nature we had in that second half and that desire to go get more, not sit back. And I think it led, ultimately to that, Barnes' fourth.
Jim, what were you going to say, buddy?
No, I was going to say it's like that. It's like watching the Olympics long jump, isn't it? And there's like the slightest of indentation on the plasticine on the board of like, oh no, you think they've broken the record, and it's like, oh no, by a gnat's knob, it's offside.
Yeah,
it was our friend of the pod, friend of Leicester City, Mike Dean, is the fourth official, and I'll save till we get to the fourth goal what I wrote in the chat with my celebration on that.
Well, it just speaks to the resiliency of this I'm going to go ahead and call it this new team that we suddenly have, because when you look at our performances beginning of the year to where we are now, it is like a new team. And, we've eaten a shit ton of Brendan Rodgers flavored crow on this podcast, as I think every Leicester City fan who's honest with themselves has in this season. And Brendan said, we need that new player bounce. And that's why he was so adamant about getting guys in. And sure enough, guys, we're seeing that new player bounce and what it has done to this team. Because how many times in the past have we seen a team get shot like we have and we go down and we just get down on ourselves and it's the same shit, let alone when they're playing with 12 guys, if you include the referee, to Jason's point, where they're getting the calls, they're getting the cards. The writing was on the wall for us to either give up on that, get pissed about it, and start getting flagrant, get a red somewhere, go down to 10 men. And we didn't do that. We coalesced around each other. We realized the situation that was happening, and we came out and we put it in. And to that same point, Harvey Barnes gets a little pissed off about that bullshit offsides goal and scores in the 80th minute on almost an exact replica of Nacho's goal, where he just, bend it in, and his beautiful goal. Jason, speak to the resiliency of this team.
Yeah, it was hilarious, like how similar it was to. It was just like the mirror image of Iheanacho's goal. It's just a player doing it with his right foot. But I wonder if that's something that they noticed about Foster, and it was like try to get him to move from side to side there, or he's uncomfortable with the screen. Just get it on goal. But I think you can see on that play, Christensen is bombing up the pitch and he's like screaming for the ball, But it just shows, like, you talk about this new player balance, this new team we've got. Here we have, in the 80 something minute, we have a left back who still has the energy to kind of bomb up the pitch, still has the energy to yell and scream and demand the ball. Doesn't get it. If you freeze it, it almost looks like he's celebrating the goal before it goes in, but he's still like, pass
the fucking ball.
But then it's, the ball goes in, and it's all's good, all's well that ends well, and he's just as happy for Barnes as probably Barnes' own mom is. And so it was just a good moment. I think it really summed up the performance. We played with a lot of energy, wanted to make sure that we finished the job. And Matt, you said it, man. There's so many times that we've seen it where we just kind of don't know what to do with the lead. Just have no idea what to do with it. Right. Don't know how to see a game out. And these guys, they did a hell of a job seeing the game out. And Spurs really did not have very many good looks at goal in that second half. I mean, and you would think that they would be pouring on the pressure, and they just couldn't. There was just nothing for them.
Yeah, it was good to see us step on a fucking throat. You know what I mean? And not be like, oh, we're up 3-1. Let's sit back. No, we got more aggressive, stepped on their throat and put it away, Chris. The difference for you there, do you think it's just a mentality of these new? I mean, Christensen is one of the most aggressive players I've seen play for us in a long time, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's energy, isn't it? It's energy from the manager. You saw him in the first half. He was throwing his book around. He was excited, and it manifests itself through the team. I think, it sounds daft, but if you were a neutral watching that game for the first time, you said one of those teams is 5th in the Premier League, one of those teams is 5 points above relegation, 9 times out of 10, they get it the wrong way around. It was it was a performance that was indicative of a top 6 side than it was of a side that's really struggled all season. And Matt, I think you're right. The 3 players have been a huge catalyst. The energy is there. It's amazing what a change can do for your mentality. I know people often think people will often in our world, maybe someone will move a job or you'll move to a new area or whatever it is. And that change just manifests and acts as a catalyst for positive things to happen. And it just seems here again that those signings have just been that impact that the whole club has needed. I mean, we talked about earlier, the Birch was so great on Saturday, hearing him at the game. He obviously, you could see that Madder's post after the game on Instagram, how much the Birch means to him as well. And I think little things like that and having that spirit in the club is just huge. And it will be huge now for the remainder of the season.
Maybe Birch can write up his new fucking contract then, and he'll sign that then, because that would be cool. Maybe get that on Jason.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to get to the players in a second, but Chris, since you mentioned the Birch, for a lot of American fans, you may not know really much about him and who he is, but he's a player. He played for the club decades ago, not from Leicester, but kind of became an adopted son of the city and of the club, and has served as a club ambassador for decades. Kind of saw us through administration, saw all the heartbreak, saw all these folks getting laid off and losing their jobs, but he's always kind of been around the club, serving as an ambassador, and he's had plenty of health scares. He's been probably clinically dead several times, but he's always kind of, that heart keeps ticking and keeps bleeding blue. He's just a really, really wonderful man too. He's hilarious. One of the funniest human beings I've ever met in my life. And he's a really, really special person to have around, and kind of really lifts people's spirits when he's around the place. And so it's just touching to see him back, to see him looking good and healthy. Just absolutely love the man, and kind of, think about him almost like he's like, an uncle or a grandpa of mine. And like, I think a lot of Leicester fans kind of see Birchie like that. He's that, kind of silly uncle that'll show up for the Sunday roast or in America for Thanksgiving and just kind of crack the whole family up. Or you take him out for a night out and you're gonna have the best night ever. So love you, Birchie. It's great to see you back out there. And I think, you nailed it. It kind of really kind of invigorates the place. And I'll just propose a thought to all of you guys now, going back to the players. It almost feels like we have more than 3 new signings, right? We've got a number 9 that we've kind of, just been not getting the best out of that position all year. And now Iheanacho's getting to start on his own, playing really well. Madison has been out for a while. You can see we look like a completely different team without him. We need that brilliance. Madison is back. Obviously we had the 3 new signings who have all like hit the ground running. And then just I think, we talk about these feel-good moments around the King Power, around Filbert Way on Saturday. But, what was better than seeing Ricardo come back out there? And, hell of a job by the boys to get the game to a comfortable point by then. So we could get Ricardo out there. And he's a guy that really deserved that ovation from the home fans. We let out a big roar in New York. You can just see what this guy's been through over the last few years. He's really just, it's been a horror show of injuries, but he's stayed positive. He's really worked his butt off. You can just tell he's just, another one of those guys that's just a good dude. People like him. He likes being around the club. And we know how good he is. We know he's one of the best right backs in the world when he's fully fit. So hopefully, we can see more and more of Ricardo. And that just is going to, if he gets back to anything close to what he was before all these injuries, we could be in for a very special run to close out this season.
Hell yeah, man. And I think there's something to be said too here, guys, about there's been a lot of questions about our recruiting department the last couple of years. And I'm not getting ahead of myself here, but it surely looks like we figured it out on these 3. And fuck me, man, if we can get back to a semblance of the recruiting success that we had years ago, that would more to it, Chris. I think that's just going to be an influx. So yeah, I'm excited about where these guys are. What do you think?
Yeah, it's 3. Yeah, I think I echo just Jason's points. I think it's a perfect. We've got 3 new players, but then, like you said, people coming back, seeing Ricky P play. I mean, one person we haven't even talked about today was Tete. I mean, he didn't really do anything when he was on the pitch. He was a little bit quiet. He had a few touches here and there. And another person, Matt, we haven't even mentioned the fact that we didn't really miss Yuri this game as well. I mean, he was a late scratch. There was a little bit of oh crap, what we're going to do? We're missing one of our best players. And I think it just epitomizes that mentality that we now have, that it is almost like a next person up. Let's fill that gap. Let's go as a team and rely on us to get the 3 points. Job done.
There's competition for almost every spot in the starting 11 now.
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah,
that's healthy.
And these aren't. It's not like we brought in veteran players here that were going to impart their knowledge and experience on the locker room. We brought in 3 hungry fucking young dudes that came walking in and said, "What? Come on." That's how I feel about it. These guys, they're not old dudes that have been around. These are guys that just came in, brought their energy, brought their youthfulness, brought their vigor. And I think the locker room has just looked around and just been straight injected to it, to Brendan's point, as he said this would happen. So I'm super excited about it. Jim, anything before we move on that you want to say about the new guys to round us out here?
I think obviously the recruitment department, Martin Glover, is going to be the big litmus test. Will be what we do in the summer, with a lot of changes coming up, and that's for a future pod. I think the 3 that have come in, to add to what you said, Matt, I think it's also their footballing intelligence, and all 3 of them have got very high footballing IQ, and that's something that we historically had brought in, and we need a lot more of, because Christensen's positioning and to go with his energy is way above, Luke Thomas, who kind of looks like he's lost sometimes, poor lad, and he just needs to kind of get in a less of a spotlight and be able to learn that craft.
Luke needs to go hang out at Stoke, and get some of that championship time that sharpened Harry.
Yeah, well, if Harry Suter is any indication of what it's like to be coached there, I think he is kind of like that under the radar signing for me, because he's not flashy. Obviously, his pass through to get the assist on Saturday was fantastic, but I watched him very closely on his debut against Villa, because I was excited about him, because having a leader at the back that maybe he adds, fast as a leader, but he adds a lot of calmness in terms of his leadership, and he adds sort of that solidity of he's not going to go wandering off, and if he is, he's doing it in a manner where he's thought through where he's going to go, and he can play the ball, and he's pretty comfortable on it too. So that, to me, you've got that balance of then him sort of and Christensen just creating that sort of more calmness, and then you've got Tete obviously, and I think to Chris's point, Brendan said after the game Tete was sort of deliberately less involved on Saturday because he kept him forward as an outlet, and that meant Barnes needed to drop and worked harder, but also it played to Barnes' strength, which is can run on late runs through or run with the ball, and so he's very good in transition. As we know, he's typically been poor when it kind of came to he's receiving it, he's got to do something. So I think to add to Jason's point of like the new signings and the new thing, I think it feels like sort of a new, like the managers had a bit of a reboot, down to the fact that I don't think anyone can grumble about the substitutions. You were talking about how we're going to hang on, and he brought in who was it first? Ndidi, and it was a nice like for like. It wasn't sort of, oh, I'm holding on to this, 3-1. I'm going to go shut down and bring on, Cags and go to a back five and invite pressure.
Right.
It was, no, I'm going to bring in Ndidi. It was a good situation because I think he actually played quite well. He got a few tackles in, and he kind of looked like he could get up to speed. And then, I think the subs for Iheanacho and Tete, for Vardy and Pratt were the right call as well, because it was Vardy just could go and run and hound and do what he does. And Pratt has been pretty good on that right-hand side and can tuck in and work hard. We know he'll give that defensively. And then, Jason's nailed it with Ricardo, loving to see. And at first he was playing 10 because he went off for Matters and he stayed in the 10 spot. And I went, oh, blimey, what's happening here? He's playing 10. This is amazing. And then you kind of saw him and Pratt cross over, and I was like, oh, that would have been great to see Ricky P. We haven't quite got the Portuguese right flank connection yet. But I think that's going to come. So I think it's just been fantastic, and really seeing the new signings come in has been great. And it seems like they've been there longer than 3 weeks.
Definitely does.
The Portuguese connection on the right, it's going to happen. Just everyone just keep sending out the vibes, keep sending out the positive energy. It will happen. The universe will make that happen. We need to see this eventually. And those players that we talked about, they're all young players, they're all hungry, but they're all really experienced for their ages, and they've been in big situations. Tete and Christensen have had major performances in the Champions League against some very big sides, and freaking Harry Suter played his ass off against Messi in the World Cup. So these guys, know how to play in high stakes situations. And I think that's also really key.
Yeah.
It's good. You said calming presence. And when I think of calming presence, I immediately think of our Northern Irish security blanket, Johnny Evans. But, whereas Johnny, he doesn't make those passes like we saw in this game. He's back there and he's holding Cag's hand when he's healthy, but he doesn't make those offensive minded plays like we saw this week. So I really, really am excited, guys, for where we could be heading with this group right now. And
also, did anyone else notice that the camera angle of the KP makes Sutter look an absolute giant? I don't know about anybody else, but when you looked at him, he just looked a unit back there. It was like the first time in a while I've seen a City defender back there. I'm like, yeah, he's a centre half. I can cope with that.
He's a big boy. Yeah, Jim, I don't know if it's the camera angle. I just think he's a big ass dude. Like, I love it. I love it. I love the fact that, you know, he put Harry Kane in his damn pocket. Like, there were no nerves about that. It was just like, I'm going to dominate your ass today, boy. And he did it. And,
well, I think, and I think also that calmness was, I can't remember what minute Wout Fast got booked. It was like pretty early.
It was early. Yeah, really early.
12th minute.
7, something like that. Yeah.
12th minute. So he played 78 minutes on a booking, and
it didn't affect his aggressiveness. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, he made smart plays still.
Yeah. And so I think that was something that I was like, you know, he's a sort of guy who you kind of think, hey, he's a bit of Cags-like and he's going to get a red and what's going to happen. But he didn't. He kind of went through it and showed some composure. So, you know, I want to add that to sort of footballing. You know, he's been a bit of a harem scarum recently, but I think that was one of his better games.
For sure. Okay, guys.
All
well,
right.
let's go around. Let's speak on our man of the match, because it was kind of a depending on what source you were looking at, we saw everyone from Harvey to Nacho to Sudar. So, Chris, go ahead and give us your man of the match. We'll just dive right through it.
Nacho, score one, set one up, just turning himself into a fantastic number 9 has to be him.
Jason?
Yeah, Iheanacho, I think he was robbed of an assist, so could have been a goal and 2 assists, with a very, very honorable mention for Papi Mendy, I think, who had the most difficult job out there on the pitch to kind of get thrown in like he was, and so Papi did great. Jimmy?
He's magic, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's magic, we knew. So that's a 4 for 4 for Nacho on the on the man of the match vote for the US Foxes podcast, at least. The man is in form right now and coming into some, like we've talked about, there's some big ass matches coming, and we're gonna need that going on for our favorite Nigerian. On that note, guys, let's look ahead to next week. Just Manchester United. So they have coming off a nice win against Leeds for them. Who would have thought Jesse Marsch wasn't the problem? But they also have to play Barca on Thursday in the Europa League before they get to us. Looking at that, Jason, you think that's got to be an advantage for us, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it helps us. It definitely helps us, because that Thursday to Sunday, as we know, it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
We've seen our league form suffer as a result of having to play those Thursday night games in Europe. So Barca will be a tough test. I mean, this is a big game still, though, for United. They're kind of on the outside looking in to win the league. They're not out of it yet. They're tough, though. They're playing really well. We've been, shaky, giving up a lot of attacks on the left side, and they have one of the hottest players in the world right now in Rashford, just storming down that side. So it's gonna be tough. But we've given United a lot of good games over the last few years. So this is probably the best time to go in there and play them. We'll have a full week's rest, and we have a really, really confident side right now. So. These were tough games, and we're not out of, the relegation mix just yet, but to get 3 points to start off our run of fixtures against, Spurs, United, Arsenal, kind of, allows us to play a bit with house money this weekend. So I think that'll help to not have that kind of pressure.
We were looking at this lineup of games 6 weeks ago. I tell you what, boys, it was not looking pretty when you're looking at your position that far down in the table, and then it's like, oh, by the way, in February you get Tottenham, then you get United, then you get Arsenal. I was not feeling confident, and man, it's exact opposite now. Could Leicester City stock be any higher for you, Chris? And speak to how important that performance was heading into this fucking match.
I mean, to Jason's point, we're probably playing against the informed player in the world right now in Rashford. I think defensively, this is going to be a huge test. not only for the fact that United play with width with Rashford and Sancho, but now you've got that physicality of Weghorst up there as well. Like, I think it's going to really push us. Forward-wise, I think we'll score. I really do think we'll have a chance. I think we can finish. I just think it's going to be a huge test, especially given what we've seen for those first 2 games, where that first 10 to 15 minutes, it's almost like, who are you and what position do you play? Like, we've got to make sure from the get-go against United that we know our roles, we understand what we're doing, because if we don't do that, you could see us go 1-2 behind quickly and then it being a mountain to kind of overcome.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very important for Sudar and the young boys to come in with that confidence high and have that same attitude towards Rashford that we had towards Harry Kane. Fuck you, dude. We're in this league now, and we're going to put you in your place. Jim, your thoughts going into this match?
I'm with Jason. I think it's like we've got the 2 wins so we've got 6 points out of what we thought we might get 1 out of these 4 games if the way we were playing before. Rashford worries me. He's probably the best, but like most informed player in the Premier League, certainly. That does that mean the world? I don't know. I'm very worried about if we do what we did and we've done about leaving the right back spot open and he's there. Holy crap, we're in big trouble. So, but I think if we can go 1 up, we can maybe control the game a bit more. And I think we've got to just be really in their faces. I think pressuring them and getting into maybe sort of stopping them moving the ball around. We'll see. I think Eriksen not being fit is going to help because it sort of subdues a little bit of their creation in midfield. Sabitzer is more of an up and down dude. They've got this new centre back that's I saw a tweet today who plays, and when he plays, they win 85% of their games. And his name is Harold Maguire. I can't remember. I don't know where he came from, but I think we can target him. And if Nacho can play like he's been playing, then we've got that. So who knows? But I think this one is the most exciting in terms of like this is going to be a game and a half.
Casemiro's suspended also.
Oh yeah, which is brilliant.
That's lovely.
So if it's Fred versus Mendy, it's the battle of the crabs.
What's the height level? What's the height on those two? What were you gonna say, Jason?
No, it's just that Casemiro's suspended.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's another reason for us to go out there and just try to get something out of the game.
Yeah.
Does anybody else?
Your boys' points as well. Next weekend's in general a really interesting round of fixtures because you've got quite a few of the sides at the bottom of the league playing each other. So from one of those standpoints as well, you're not going to see us tumble down the table. You may see teams get a little bit closer, but it's not like a single loss is going to result in us finishing the bottom 3. So I think as long as we can put a performance in, I think that's the thing here. We're dealing with house money. It's about putting that performance in and continuing the momentum. If we can do that, then who knows?
Well, for the first time in a long time, I actually am not, I'm not at the point where it's like, oh, fuck, we're just, I actually do have some confidence in the side, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, and then, I'm not sure if it was mentioned before, but Casemiro is suspended.
I heard somewhere that Casemiro was suspended. I'm not sure.
Hell yeah. I
think Pipes mentioned it when he was talking about Mendy.
Someone mentioned it for sure.
They've got a hybrid of Casemiro in.
Casemiro, Prime Gattuso, N'Golo Kante.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess I just hope that it's not the weekend that Forest decide to turn up and beat Man City, though. That's kind of like I'm hoping that Man City in the form they showed against Villa will put 15 past them. I'll take losing our away record win for Man City from 15.
Definitely. Every time we play United too, am I the only one that just wishes there was more to dislike about Marcus Rashford? Every time I'm like, fuck, God, I hate him, but he does all the best things in the world, and he's like adopting children and saving rare species of animals. Like, what the fuck does the guy not do wrong off the pitch? And it just sucks. It's the exact opposite of last week with Kane. So
yeah, it's like, what would you do? Like, you wouldn't like spit at like Gandhi in the face, right? Like, he's just so good.
I know, like
and I like, for non-Leicester players, I have all the time in the world for Marcus Rashford. I think he's shown himself to be, a remarkable human being who, does a hell of a lot for other people.
Unlike Harry Kane, who's a Patriots fan.
Perfect. But yeah, that being said, Marcus, feel free to have some bad food the night before and shit your pants and can't make a match. That'd be cool with us.
Yeah. One of your school dinners.
Some bad paella against Barcelona.
Something. Just get something. Cool, guys. Well, with that, guy, I think we've pretty much summed it up. It's a massive one, but we're already playing with house money the way this team's playing right now, and you couldn't be anything but happy right now if you're a Foxes fan. So, if you're not, I don't know what to tell you, because compared to where we were, guys, doing this podcast a few weeks ago, it's night and day. So. On that note, boys, thank you for joining us on the US Foxes podcast. For Jim, Jason, Chris, and the rest of the listeners out there, we can't thank you enough for doing this. Little fun note I just saw this week. I haven't even shared this with you guys yet. We were ranked 170th in soccer podcasts, which when you look at how many soccer podcasts there are well over 1,000. So thank you guys for listening out there. It means the world to us. Like, 178 sounds like a big number, but when you put it into perspective, it's fucking crazy that we have that sort of imprint. So thank you for listening. Thank you for spreading the word, telling your friends and family about the pod. Because it's to come on here and we literally would do this if we didn't have a podcast. Like, the four of us would just meet up and probably FaceTime and talk about this shit. So the fact that we have guys like listeners like you that want to hang out and hear what we have to say, we can't thank you enough. So on that note, guys, big match against United this weekend. Tigers back at Riviera. It's gonna be a crazy weekend. So thank you for joining us. Casemiro suspended. Yes, exactly. So on that note, guys, thank you for joining us on the US Foxes podcast, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Jeez.